I stared at my phone in disbelief, the racy messages between my husband Paul and his coworker Amber burning into my eyes. My heart pounded as waves of anger, hurt, and betrayal washed over me. "Paul," I shouted, my voice trembling with rage. "Get in here right now." He shuffled into the living room, his face flushing when he saw my phone. "Viv, I can explain." "Explain what?" I spat, thrusting the phone at him. "These explicit texts to that little tramp Amber? How could you do this to me, to our family?" Paul sighed heavily. "I'm sorry, but I've fallen for her. She's young, beautiful, full of life. Things have gotten stale between us." The words felt like a slap across the face. After over 20 years of marriage and 3 kids, this was how he repaid my devotion? I'd sacrificed my career dreams to be a stay-at-home mom while he built his business empire. "So that's it?" I cried. "You're just throwing away everything we have for some cheap fling with a girl half your age?" Paul's jaw tightened. "It's not just a fling. I want to be with Amber. I'm filing for divorce." The room started spinning as my life crumbled around me. This couldn't be happening. Not to us. Not after all we'd been through together. "You selfish bastard!" I hurled his favorite mug across the room, shattering it against the wall. "After everything I gave up for you and this family?" Paul didn't even flinch. "We'll divide assets equitably. You'll be taken care of financially." Money. That's all he thought about now that his pretty new thing had turned his head. I wanted to claw his eyes out, scream until my voice was hoarse. But an eerie calm washed over me, replacing my anger with icy determination. I straightened my shoulders and met his gaze steadily. "You're going to regret this, Paul." "I'll make sure of that." His brows furrowed with confusion, but I didn't elaborate. Let him live in smug oblivion for now. Soon enough, he'd realize the grave mistake he made by betraying me. The divorce proceedings were a bitter pill to swallow. Paul's lawyer acted like I should be grateful for the generous settlement offer that would leave me with a measly fraction of the assets I'd helped build over 2 decades of marriage. As I pored over the paperwork, I realized how thoroughly I'd sacrificed my own ambitions for Paul's career growth. While he climbed the corporate ladder to become a millionaire VP, I put my marketing career on hold to be a stay-at-home mom for our 3 kids. I thought it was a shared investment in our future, him working hard to provide while I raised our children, with the dream that one day we'd retire early and travel the world together. Grow old on a vineyard in Tuscany or a beach house in Maui as our kids established lives of their own. Now that vision was shattered, merely ashes of the dreams we'd constructed so carefully. All because Paul couldn't keep his pants zipped around that vapid bimbo Amber. Earth to Viv. My best friend Karen waved a hand in front of my face, snapping me back to the present over glasses of Merlot. "You've been a million miles away." I sighed heavily. "I'm just reeling, you know? Trying to wrap my head around how my entire future has been ripped away because my husband wanted a newer model on his arm." Karen's face contorted with disgust. What a pig. Trading in a stable, loving wife who put everything on hold for him for some young thing who's undoubtedly gold-digging. Exactly. I threw up my hands in exasperation. And now I'm supposed to just start over at 42 with the tiny settlement he's offering, after putting my career on permanent hold for his? Hell no, honey. You lawyer up and take that bastard for everything he's worth. Karen pointed her wineglass at me emphatically. He betrayed you and destroyed your shared dreams. It's only fair he pays through the nose. Her fiery response was the wake-up call I needed. This wasn't the end. Not by a long shot. If Paul thought I'd go quietly into the night and let him ride off into the sunset with his cheap mistress, he had another thing coming. I was done being a doormat. From now on, I'd be calling the shots, taking back control of my life. And Paul was going to pay dearly for every single tear, every ounce of pain and humiliation he'd put me through. My lips curved into a vindictive smile. Don't worry. By the time I'm through with him, Paul will realize what a colossal mistake he made. The divorce was final, and I was utterly depleted, emotionally, physically, financially, but I couldn't wallow anymore. It was time to regroup and fight back. First step? An extreme makeover. I hit the gym hard, pounding away on the treadmill and lifting weights with a vengeance. The pounds started melting off as I traded in my usual snacks for a strict diet of lean proteins and veggies. Visits to an upscale med spa became a weekly ritual, chemical peels, laser treatments, even a little Botox to smooth the frown lines from years of stress and heartache. Karen noticed the changes first. "Damn, Viv, you're already looking 10 years younger, glowing like you drank from the fountain of youth." I smirked, flexing a newly toned bicep. "Just getting started. By the time I'm done, Paul won't even recognize his old ball and chain." With my physical transformation underway, I also took steps to revive my long-dormant career. Night classes to update my marketing skills, networking meetups to make new contacts. It was utterly grueling juggling my studies with the gym routine and skincare regimen. But I kept pushing, fueled by rage at Paul's betrayal and determination to become utterly unstoppable. A few months in, I landed an interview at a prestigious ad agency. As I slipped on my skin-tight dress and sleek heels, I barely recognized the bombshell in the mirror. "Looking good, Mrs. Robinson," I murmured with a wink. In the interview, I oozed confidence, charisma, and razor-sharp expertise that clearly impressed the executives. As the lead interviewer shook my hand, his eyes roamed over my body. "Well, Vivian, I don't know what that husband of yours was thinking," he chuckled. "But I can't wait to get you on our team." Walking out with the six-figure job offer, I felt like $1,000,000. This was only the beginning. Eventually, I'd have the dream career I'd sacrificed for Paul's ambitions, the financial freedom to live in luxury on my own terms, and best of all, the chance to utterly decimate Paul's ego when he realized what he'd so stupidly discarded. My phone pinged with a text from Karen. "Drinks tonight to celebrate the new job? You've earned it." "Sexy." I grinned wickedly. Time to get started on phase 2, showing the world's biggest regretful bastard exactly what he'd be missing. The next few years were a whirlwind of self-transformation. I threw myself into my new high-powered job, dazzling clients and coworkers alike with my razor-sharp strategies and stunning new look. The long hours were grueling, but I powered through every presentation, every intense meeting with a laser focus that left others in the dust, all while maintaining a strict diet and fitness regimen that whittled me down to a sculpted size 4. Weekend yoga classes and boxing sessions kept my body toned to perfection. Skinny jeans hugged my curves in all the right places, while I rocked skyscraper stilettos with ease. Professionally, I was unstoppable, landing the biggest accounts and promotions, earning a corner office with a 6-figure salary. Personally, I was reborn. Just one look in the mirror showed a confident, radiant bombshell who could stop traffic. The old, frumpy housewife persona was utterly obliterated. Out with the girls for cocktails one night, Karen gawked at me over her Cosmo. "I still can't get over your transformation, Viv. You're so hot, I might leave my husband for you." I threw my head back with a husky laugh. "Down, girl. I'm just getting started on making Paul realize what he's missing." Speaking of the soon-to-be regretting bastard, the karmic scales were already starting to tip in my favor. His business was floundering without my steady influence and organizational skills. Clients were jumping ship left and right, dismayed by his increasingly erratic behavior. And then there was his disastrous personal life with Amber. The resentful whispers and cold shoulders whenever they were spotted in public told me all I needed to know. The thrill was gone, replaced by the harsh reality of her selfish, vapid ways. It was almost perfect, me rising to glamorous new heights while Paul's world crumbled around him. Almost, but not quite enough for the soul-crushing vengeance I craved. One night after a corporate boot camp in Vegas, I caught an inadvertent glimpse of the miserable couple at the blackjack tables. Amber throwing back cocktails and loudly deriding Paul's gut and thinning hair. Him hunched in quiet misery, clearly regretting his colossal mistake. I sauntered over in my skin-tight bandage dress, every head turning to gawk at my jaw-dropping new look. "Well, well," I purred, looking Paul up and down with disdain. "If it isn't the has-been and the gold digger." Paul's face drained of color. Vivian, is that really you?" "Obviously, since you can't seem to pick your jaw off the floor." I smirked, reveling in his stunned reaction. "Like what you see, Paul? This is just a little taste of what you'll never have again." Over the next few months, I relished every agonizing update about Paul's downward spiral. It was like a delicious karma buffet, and I savored every bitter morsel. His business continued bleeding clients and money, struggling to stay afloat. Amber's insatiable spending habits, designer clothes, lavish vacations, a cherry red Porsche, drained what was left of his dwindling resources. "Can you believe that ungrateful bimbo?" Karen seethed one night after sharing Amber's latest Instagram splurge, a diamond-encrusted Rolex. "Using Paul's money to flaunt her tacky crap all over social media?" I shook my head in mock sympathy. What did he expect, dating a vapid gold digger less than half his age? He made his bed. But the true pièce de résistance was witnessing the spectacular disintegration of their doomed romance firsthand. Karen and I were enjoying a girls' night at an upscale steakhouse when the miserable pair was seated nearby. Amber immediately launched into an ear-piercing diatribe, scolding Paul for his skinfold old man gut and his refusal to buy her a new Mercedes. He shrank in his chair, eyes downcast, as she relentlessly berated his fading looks and inability to provide. "You're so pathetic and disgusting," she sneered, shoving her half-eaten fillet across the table. "I can't even stand looking at you anymore." With that, she stormed out, leaving Paul to slink out in humiliated silence. I caught his eye as he passed our table and gave a mocking slow clap. "Bravo, lover boy. She's a real keeper, that one." The utter shame and regret in his eyes was like a delicious aperitif before the main course. I knew it was only a matter of time before the entire rotten affair imploded. Over the next few weeks, Amber's wild spending and partying escalated out of control, maxing out Paul's credit cards on Rodeo Drive shopping binges, stumbling out of clubs at 4 a.m., leaving a trail of compromising photos in her wake. The final straw was apparently Paul discovering a series of seedy texts between Amber and some B-list actor she'd met at a Vegas club. He immediately changed the locks and sent her packing. I'll never forget the pure satisfaction of seeing the crying, disheveled mess that was Amber dragging her Louboutin-stuffed luggage down the driveway. Karma was finally serving up its cold, delicious revenge. As for Paul, the damage was done, both financially and emotionally. His company went into bankruptcy, and he was forced to downsize into a dingy one-bedroom apartment. But my retribution was just getting started. 5 years had passed since Paul's colossal betrayal upended both our lives. I was utterly and unrecognizable from the dowdy, heartbroken housewife who discovered his sordid affair. My career was soaring to new heights as a marketing director at a global ad firm. I traveled the world for campaigns, turning heads in my runway-ready power suits and designer stilettos. In my downtime, I relaxed in my sprawling penthouse overlooking the city, sipping aged whiskeys and smoking Cuban cigars on the balcony. In short, I wanted for nothing, except the final act of delicious vengeance I had meticulously planned. That opportunity arose one crisp fall evening as I strode through the lobby of my upscale apartment building. There, slumped against the wall in a tattered coat and clutching a crumpled paper bag, was a ghastly, haunted figure I barely recognized. "Well, well, if it isn't the fallen king," I sneered, stopping in front of the wretched soul that was once my husband. "Rough times, I see." Paul's sunken, bloodshot eyes widened with shock as he registered my sleek presence. "Vivian? Is that you?" "You're damn right." I crossed my arms, letting him drink in every inch of my designer-clad perfection. "Quite a change from the sad sack you cheated on and left for ruin, isn't it?" His gaze dropped in shame. I never meant for things to turn out like this. I made the biggest mistake of my life." "Oh, you have no idea." I threw back my head with a mocking laugh. Getting involved with that soulless leech, Amber, was just the start. Abandoning the comfortable life I put on hold for you and your precious career? Unforgivable. Paul opened his mouth to respond, but I cut him off with a raised palm. "Save it. I'm not interested in any more of your sniveling, pathetic apologies. I just wanted you to see with your own eyes the life you so foolishly tossed away." I slowly turned in a circle, letting him drink in every designer label, from my fitted Armani blazer to my cherry red Louboutin heels. A life of opulence and indulgence he'd never experience again. "This is what you'll never have, Paul, not after your greed and weakness cost you everything." Sudden movement in the corner of my eye made me turn. There in the lobby entrance stood my wealthy, successful fiancé, Thomas. Over a decade Paul's junior, with the chiseled body of a fitness model. He grinned broadly and pulled me into a deep, passionate kiss. When we finally came up for air, I smirked at the crestfallen look on Paul's haggard face. "You see that stud over there?" I purred, gesturing to Thomas. He treats me like the goddess I am, showers me with everything money can buy, and best of all, I leaned in to deliver the final sadistic twist of the knife. He has the stamina and prowess to satisfy me in the bedroom like you never could, even in your prime. With that parting shot, I strolled away on Thomas's arm, leaving Paul to wallow in his squalor and regret. Just a hollowed-out husk taking his last pathetic look at the glittering life he pissed away through unforgivable greed and betrayal. The ultimate revenge was nearly complete. A few weeks after that fateful lobby run-in, I decided it was time to deliver the final devastating blow to Paul's shattered ego, to ensure he understood the full, miserable consequences of throwing away our life together. I invited him over under the pretense of needing help moving some boxes from the storage unit. Paul, being the desperate, sniveling worm he'd become, jumped at any chance to get into my good graces again. When he arrived at my luxurious penthouse, I made sure he got an eyeful of my glamorous new existence. The sleek modern furnishings, the wall of floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline, the private terrace with a bubbling hot tub and outdoor kitchen. Wow, Viv, he stammered, eyes wide as he stepped inside. This place is incredible. I had no idea you were living like... He trailed off, unable to give voice to the obvious, that I was living a life of opulence and success he could now only dream of. I smirked inwardly, savoring his awestruck envy. Well, I certainly didn't achieve any of this sitting around and feeling sorry for myself, I said coolly, inspecting my manicure. Some of us prefer to fight for what we deserve, rather than squandering it all on ridiculous flings. Paul flinched visibly at the dig, then quickly tried to change the subject. So, where are these boxes you needed some help with? Oh, that won't be necessary. I waved a hand airily. I actually invited you here for a different reason. Right on cue, the elevator doors parted and my Adonis of a fiancé, Thomas, stepped out, looking like a male model in an impeccably tailored suit. His eyes lit up when he saw me. There's my gorgeous girl, he purred in that deep, sexy baritone, crossing the room to pull me into a passionate embrace. When we finally broke the heated kiss, I turned a sly grin to the dumbstruck Paul. Paul, I'd like you to meet my fiancé, Thomas. Thomas, this is my pathetic ex-husband who cheated on me with a two-bit bimbo. Thomas looked Paul up and down with undisguised disdain, taking in his wrinkled, ill-fitting clothes and weathered face. Ah, yes, the fool who traded in a diamond for a piece of zirconia costume jewelry. My fiancé's insult landed like a punch to Paul's gut. His face flushed crimson as I casually admired the dazzling 5-carat diamond engagement ring on my finger. You see, Paul, while you were out squandering your money and dignity on chasing young tail, I built myself into the powerhouse I was always destined to become. I traced a perfectly manicured nail along Thomas's chiseled jaw, and I found a real man who could satisfy me, in every sense of the word. On cue, my 3 kids, now successful young adults in their own right, strode off the elevator carrying platters of hors d'oeuvres and champagne flutes. Their faces lit up when they saw me, but immediately turned to cold sneers upon noticing Paul. What's he doing here? My daughter Chloe spat, venom dripping from her words. Don't worry, sweetie. I just wanted to give your washed-up father a little glimpse of what real happiness looks like. I pulled Thomas close, nuzzling against his neck. One he'll never, ever get to experience again after the way he treated us. The kids exchanged disgusted looks at Paul's pathetic form, wilting under the weight of my words. He opened his mouth, perhaps to issue another feeble apology, but seemed to realize none of us had any interest in hearing it. With a miserable shake of his head, Paul turned and shuffled away, leaving my beautiful family to celebrate our lavish new beginning without him. As the elevator doors closed, I raised a glass of crisp champagne to my lips. To karma, I purred, sipping the bubbly ambrosia. Revenge, once and for all, had been exquisitely served. In the months following that deliciously humiliating encounter, the karmic scales continued tipping decisively in my favor. Paul's life and circumstances, which had already hit rock bottom, somehow found new abysmal depths to plumb. The consulting firm he tried desperately to get off the ground folded within 6 months. His savings and remaining assets were swiftly drained, paying off debts and legal fees. Before long, he was couch surfing with former clients turned fair-weather friends, sleeping on soiled mattresses in their dingy spare rooms. A washed-up, pathetic shadow of the arrogant businessman who thought the rules of fidelity and decency didn't apply to him. I, meanwhile, had achieved the kind of wildly successful, opulent existence I once naively hoped we might share together. My marketing career was soaring to new heights as an executive at a global brand consultancy, overseeing massive multi-million-dollar campaigns, traveling the world to attend decadent parties and corporate retreats at five-star resorts. And of course there was my husband Thomas, a wealthy, devastatingly handsome entrepreneur 10 years my junior. He doted on me relentlessly, showering me with diamonds, designer fashions, and a penthouse that would make Architectural Digest weep with envy. We married in a lavish, no-expense-spared ceremony in Tuscany that quickly became the subject of envious whispers and tabloid headlines. Paul, no doubt, got wind of the media frenzy surrounding the millionaire marketing mogul's fairy-tale Italian wedding while slumming it on some buddy's mildewed sofa. In the years that followed, Thomas and I enjoyed an indulgent, globe-trotting lifestyle that would have made my former housewife persona dizzy with disbelief. Winters in a ski chalet in Aspen, summers lounging aboard our 90-foot yacht in the Mediterranean, all while Paul scraped by on odd jobs and whatever pity allowances his remaining friends would spare. He hit absolute rock bottom a few years after the wedding, when I ran into him panhandling on a street corner. Disheveled, unshaven, with wild eyes and tattered clothes, the once proud and powerful businessman was now utterly destitute. Part of me felt a twinge of something when I saw him there, begging for change and clutching a crumpled sign about being a homeless vet. The slightest pang of, not regret, certainly, but a vague echo of the love I'd once felt for the man he used to be, before greed and lust consumed him. But the moment passed quicker than a firework's bright burst. I simply rolled up the tinted windows of my cherry-red Bentley and kept driving, leaving Paul choking on exhaust fumes in my wake. He'd made his choices, selfish and unforgivable, and this was the ultimate cosmic price to pay. My quest for revenge against the man who so callously upended and betrayed my life was complete. I had everything: wealth, success, adoration, and devotion from a younger, better man. While Paul's once bright future had been utterly incinerated, reduced to ashes of arrogance and deceit. In the end, I could only hope some part of him recognized how his greed and infidelity had directly led to such a devastatingly low point. Because if there's one thing I firmly believe in, it's the universe's way of serving up poetic justice to those who deserve it most.